Welcome to the FAMiLY.com. I'm Bob Vander Plaats, and thrilled to have a special guest with us today, a guest I think you're going to know. The former Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. Welcome to the Family Leader.
Bob, it's great to be with you. It's great to be with the Family Leader again.
Well, tell us why you'd want to come to we're thrilled that you're in Iowa, by the way, and we're thrilled that you came to Des Moines. Why would you want to take time out of your schedule to stop at the Family Leader's offices?
Oh, goodness. The trip to Iowa is special because I'm going to help some candidates be successful. It's important that Iowa lead the way. It's the first in the nation primary. But I wanted to come to Family Leader because my faith is something that is central to me. And the Family Leader is an important part of talking about that and delivering righteous policy to the United States of America. It has been a leader in that. And so it was great to get this chance and the opportunity to speak with you and to speak with the folks that listen to was something that I find great value with, and it's always joyous as well.
Well, it's such an honor for us to have you here. And by the way, our team is here taking in this interview as well. Guys, what do you think of having the Secretary of State at our office? And it is a real privilege, and it's a real honor to have you here. And I really want to start off by saying thank you. Thank you for your leadership as Secretary of State, before that as a congressman, then as a CIA director. And you've been part of some historic leadership. The embassy to Jerusalem, the Abraham Accords, even going to Judea and Samaria. I think you're the first sitting official to go into the West Bank in the Middle East. But as you look back now on your time as Secretary of State, do you ever just kind of have those pinch me moments like, wow, God allowed me to do that? Can you share what that would be?
Oh, I absolutely do. In fact, I felt it while I was a Secretary of State. There were so many times the plane would roll up, I'd be getting ready to go down and meet a world leader, and I think I would pray. I would thank the Lord for giving me this opportunity, knowing that it was fleeting, that this was a moment for me to be in this place that the Lord had put me. And so, yes, it was often pinch me. How the heck did Mike get there? I can think of so many. Certainly the trips that I took to Israel and to the Middle East, it always felt that way. The trip when I was able to return home with 3 Americans from North Korea was among the most emotional moments of my time as Secretary. To see these 3 people who had been held by Chairman Kim, this horrific humanitarian situation, and to bring them home, have them come on the plane. They were healthy. These were all Christian believers who we brought back, and it was one of the most glorious moments of my time as Secretary of State.
And I know, and you mentioned it already, but your faith is very real to you. And you've been a champion for religious liberty, not just in this country, but across the globe, and using the Secretary of State's office is championing religious liberty, something to be valued. And those foreign leaders knew that you were a deep man of faith. How did that give you either an edge or a fair playing field, or did it give you, a slanted playing field when visiting with those foreign leaders?
Well, I believed it was important. It turned out I was right about this. There were things I got wrong. But, for example, I went to Cairo, and the opening line of my remarks in Cairo, an Islamic country, were that I'm an evangelical Christian. And to this day, I get notes from people saying, thank you for doing that. Thank you for being bold in your faith. And whether they were Christian or Jewish or Muslim, they knew that this meant this was a leader who was bold, who was disciplined and had an understanding, brought a worldview to the world stage. I think it benefited the United States enormously for that transparency. I will also say I think it helped my team around the world as well. My team knew who I was. The work that we did inside the State Department as well, talking about the capacity for individuals all around the world, each of us who's made in the image of God to practice their faith, is something I hope is a real legacy of the work that I did while I was there.
I want to bring you back to Cairo, Egypt just a little bit, because Darla and I were in Cairo, Egypt, and visiting with President El-Sisi, part of the Joel Rosenberg delegation. And he talked about, churches being burned down during the time of the Muslim Brotherhood, and talked about rebuilding churches. And you went there when he dedicated church on Christmas Day in Egypt, right? Can you tell us a little bit about that? That'd be good for me.
Yeah, Bob, it's remarkable what President Sisi did. He built a beautiful mosque and a beautiful church almost right next to each other in this special place. And his commitment was that they would support each equally, and they would support the right of Egyptian citizens and Egyptian visitors to attend each of them equally. It was really special to be there. They're beautiful places that they built, but more importantly, the people that they're filled with are believers, both Abrahamic religions, very different for sure, but each of whom comes at this with a seriousness and the capacity to talk as between the religions, and with an increasing understanding of the capacity, whether it's the Coptic Christians there in Egypt or Christians other places in the world, an increasing understanding that is central to successful leadership and governance in each country and around the world, that we allow people to practice their faith, and if they choose not to practice any faith, but to have that capacity for religious freedom each place and always.
Well, again, thank you for going there when you were invited, because I remember that was basically President al-Sisi fulfilling a pledge and a promise that he had made to us. So thank you. So we've talked a lot about faith, we've talked a lot about leadership. Some people say you need to keep your faith out of leadership, keep your faith out of politics. How would you advise somebody who's looking at either running for public office or being a public leader about separating your faith and politics?
First of all, I just don't know how you do that. as a personal matter, my everything, the way I think about the world, my understanding about how we should treat each other and how we ought to treat people all around the world derives from my understanding of being a follower of Jesus Christ. That's who I am. And so I would never ask anyone to leave their faith at the door. You should be candid about who you are. It's an important part of thinking who our leaders ought to be. People will have different judgments about that. But I found that putting faith in that public square has an important secular element to it too, right? Our U.S. government needs leaders of faith who are committed to this. And then I'd say this as well. Those of us who are Christians understand that we have a responsibility to demonstrate our faith. So one is to have faith, second is to have works behind it, and to be able to have confidence in who you are and what you believe. I swore my oath to the Constitution of a Judeo-Christian nation, and I think every leader has a responsibility to shine that light, to not put it under a bushel, and to be who you are and make the case for America with your faith as support for that effort.
Praise God. Aren't you guys thankful that he was our Secretary of State? Obviously, the election did not turn out how many of us wanted. I'm sure how you wanted. And it removes you now from serving in that capacity as Secretary of State. As you look now to the Biden-Harris administration, knowing what you know, how would you advise them in a constructive manner about, you guys got to be watchful for this. You got to be on alert for this. So this isn't being critical of Biden and Harris because you guys won, we lost, whatever it might be. But I want what's best for this country. How would you advise them right now? What would you say to them?
So a few things. First, one of the things that President Trump and I did as we thought about our place in the world was we were ambitious while being restrained. That is, we understood that America could lead, but it didn't mean we had to do everything always everywhere. We certainly didn't have to put our young boys and girls in harm's way everywhere and always. And I think that struck the right balance for American leadership. More specifically, in a couple areas, what we did in the Middle East changed history. And it didn't just change history for the relationship between the United States and Israel or between the United States and the United Arab Emirates. It changed history for the people in those places. They now have relationships and can build out and find common understandings across their religions and their faiths and their regions that I don't think is ever going to go back. I truly think we have recorded this moment and only progress can occur from here. And it's a wonderful thing. They'll be more prosperous. That'll be good. They'll be more secure. That's fantastic. But I think there'll be a deeper understanding between the Gulf Arab Islamic countries and that special place in Israel. And we did it because President Trump was willing to let us break some glass and bring a theory of the case that was different. And it's not partisan, right? There were Republicans who weren't willing to do that as well. I think that made an enormous difference. I would hope that the Biden administration will look at where the Middle East is today and begin their analysis from that point and not where the Middle East was in 2015.
So we obviously are also a divided country today. It seems like it's polar opposites no matter where you go. I tell people in about 90 seconds, I can tell if you watch Fox News or CNN. I mean, it's what your talking points are. Where's the hope for this country to say we can unify together? We can be one United States of America moving forward. Where's the hope? Where's that vision of bringing us together?
I'm very optimistic that going forward that the United States will remain the most exceptional nation in the history of civilization. I think that hope involves the central understandings of who we are as a people. And we come from different places. My heritage is from Italy. My wife's is from a different part of Europe. We come from all over. We're of different colors, different ethnicities. That's all fantastic. Mm-hmm. The central understandings that our founders laid down for us, the heritage that they provided, the ideas that they focused our country on, are a place I think we can all unite. We'll come to different policy conclusions. We'll disagree about some of those. But in the end, I think there is enormous opportunity for the United States to be regrounded to more itself, to our traditions. And when we do those things, I think you'll see that the contentiousness will move. It won't go away, but it'll move to a secondary place. And the things that we have in common, the places we're united, the places where we can work together will come to be the things that the American people really value. I hope and pray that that's the case.
So you're looking at the foundations, the pillars, the ideas that have made America great. Let's rally around those.
Yes.
And let's truly believe that the best days are ahead of us.
Yes, sir. Things like our churches and our schools and our communities, all the things that we know and love and value and grew this nation to this special place in the world. I'm very optimistic that that will continue to be the case.
Well, thank you for those comments. One other thing I want to visit with you about those, the family leader, we say we want to inspire the church to engage government for the advancement of God's kingdom. And the ripple effect will be electing ministers of God. The ripple effect will be advancing righteous policy. The ripple effect will be showing a true government-church partnership in meeting community needs where communities' needs need to be met. What is the role that a ministry like the Family Leader has in the state of Iowa, but even throughout the country, to make sure that we don't forget the things that have made us great?
Yeah. The way you sequence that, the way you introduce the concept of the way the Family Leader thinks about it is absolutely spot on, in my judgment.
Well, thank you to our marketing department.
Look, it's my understanding of how the relationship between our faith and our commitment to our civic responsibilities come together, how they merge, how we collectively deliver really good outcomes for every human being. If we get that right, we shouldn't be fearless. This idea that there's this wall, look, it's deeply buried within the organization I ran at the Department of State. Some of the things that you talked about me doing were met with some consternation in the hallways at Foggy Bottom. But I was right, and I was.
That's my line.
I was right about this much. Our founders understood it that way too. It is actually, if you look back, it is the history of the United States of America. And so, the faith community, people who participate in things like Family Leader, have a responsibility to certainly carry the word of the Lord forward in all the power that they have, but also engage with government leaders from every faith, and to make sure they understand why and how it is that we can act in a way that serves Him and serves our nation at the same time. It's the right way for America to continue to move forward.
Well, let me ask you to conclude as we talk to moms and dads and young men and women who are taking this in. They don't have a post like Secretary of State. They don't have a title like former Secretary of State. They don't have a ministry called the family. What can moms and dads and young men and women do to help make this country be all that it can be?
So every day I started my day, I would drive up to the State Department, I would go up the elevator. 22 seconds elevator trip. I would bow my head and I would set my moment for the day. I would think about the Lord. I would realize how blessed I was to have this moment. I think my security team sometimes thought, hey, the door's open, come on. Let's get to work. I would just urge everyone to pray. Pray for our nation. Pray for all of our leaders. Pray for our president. Pray for our vice president, all the leaders all across America. It's something everyone can do. Second, engage with your church and your faith community. Make sure those leaders are thinking about their place in their community, whether that's to help the city council with a particular project or a school board or wherever it may be. Those are the things that each one of us can do. You don't need a fancy title or a position of authority and power to pitch in and to be part of something that's bigger than yourself. I tried to do that when we taught fifth grade Sunday school back a whole lot of years ago, and my wife and I taught those fifth graders. These are the simple things that make America so unique and so special and make it the place that this Lord is watching over.
Well, since you brought it up, I'm going to ask another question. You brought up at the World Food Prize headquarters when you were with us in July, and really just had a great time. And give our best to Susan, by the way, and give congratulations to Nick.
Yes, we're excited.
And Rachel on their upcoming marriage. How in the world did 5th grade Sunday school train you to be Secretary of State?
Oh my goodness, it was perfect. It was perfect. We for part of the Sunday moments together, we would divide the boys and girls. My wife would take the girls. I would take the boys. My wife would teach them good scripture. I'd make sure the boys didn't hurt each other. What it did teach me is that I would prepare the lesson for the week. I would always learn, and it was a 5th grade lesson. I'd studied the Bible some, but I'd still always learn. And then on Sunday morning, I'd hear these young people and their reflections on what they were seeing in the Word as they read it alongside of us. I learned each and every day. It reminded me that you can learn from lots of places you might not expect that someone might know just a little more than you.
There's a poem that goes, we learned it all in kindergarten.
Yes,
and probably we learned it more in a 5th grade Sunday school classroom. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, thank you so much for joining us here at the FAMiLY. I want you to know you're welcome back anytime.
Thank
Secretary
you very much.
Mike Pompeo.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Bless you. Thank you all.